Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Abhineet Shukla and with me is Reshma Tiwari bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. Swarnim Vijay Parv marking 50 years of India's victory in 1971 war and Indo-Bangladesh friendship to be celebrated at India Gate in New Delhi on Sunday. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi says irrigation facilities to every field is among top priorities of the government. India flight tests indigenous standoff anti-tank missile from Pokhran range. Saudi Arabia bans Tablighi Jamaat on grounds of fanning terrorism. 4 tornadoes hit Kentucky state of US, killing 50 people. 7th edition of India International Science Festival begins in Panaji, Goa. United Kingdom warns Russia over military action in Ukraine. As India marches towards administering 150 crore vaccine doses against COVID-19, news about the fresh corona variants is also causing concern. In this situation, we appeal to our listeners to get fully vaccinated at the earliest and also help others get vaccinated. Please follow these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, and focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact the national helpline numbers 011 2397 8046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. Swarnim Vijay Parv will be celebrated at India Gate, New Delhi on Sunday to commemorate 50 years of India's historic victory in the 1971 war and the Indo-Bangladesh friendship. The 2-day event will be inaugurated by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. During the event, major weapons and equipment used during the 1971 war will be displayed along with the snippets of major battles. After the inauguration, the event would be open to the public. The closing ceremony will be held on the 13th of December, which will be attended by Rajnath Singh as well as many dignitaries including from Bangladesh. In today's Hotspots section, we bring you this special program on 50 years of the liberation of Bangladesh.
A war which unveiled the real face of Pakistan saw atrocities being inflicted on its own people in the erstwhile East Pakistan. As per an estimate of the Bangladesh government, nearly 3 million people were killed in the liberation struggle, which lasted for nearly 9 months in Bangladesh. The 1971 war was a fallout of the oppressive political and economic policies of West Pakistan towards East Pakistan, which caused unimaginable human sufferings leading to the exodus of more than 10 million refugees into India. The military option was exercised by India only when all political and diplomatic efforts to resolve the issue failed.
The series of events leading up to an all-out war triggered by unprovoked airstrikes by Pakistan on Indian air bases on 3rd December 1971 began with the decision of the Pakistan Army to conduct elections in the country in the December of 1970. In 1970, the Pakistan Army decided to step down from power and announce elections. The Awami League under its leader Sheikh Mujibur Rahman swept the polls in East Pakistan, but the military junta was unwilling to transfer power to him. In a historic address at the Raman Racecourse in Dhaka in early 1971, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman promised them a new country, a sovereign state, a place where there could be no differential treatment meted out to the Bangla populace.
Mukti Bahini or the Mukti Fauj, with an aim to realize the dream of a sovereign Bangla nation, was formed to follow up the dream of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. The uprising in East Pakistan sent panic waves to the West Pakistan, which appointed Lieutenant General Tikka Khan as the administrator for the East Pakistan. Lieutenant General Tikka Khan organized a brutal crackdown in East Pakistan and is considered to be the chief architect of the Operation Searchlight. Operation Searchlight was a planned military operation carried out by the Pakistan Army to curb the Bengali nationalist movement in the erstwhile East Pakistan in March 1971. The long and torturous history left no scope of return, and the Bangla freedom struggle united everyone. Mukti Bahini, along with the support of common populace, controlled large areas of the country in the waterlogged countryside after Bangabandhu's call. The military reorganized itself after the monsoon and by September 1971 had reclaimed all the territory. The freedom fighters took refuge in India. They crossed the border and took shelter in India. Nearly 10 million people from East Pakistan took refuge in India in camps along the border. There were ordeals of massacres and rapes, while it was clear that the cost of looking out to the refugees was going out of the pocket of the Indian government. It was during this time that skirmishes between the Border Security Force and the Pakistan Army began. Steadily, both countries began inching towards a war. Lieutenant General Jagjit Singh Arora, who was to be later in charge of operations in East Pakistan in 1971, recalls,
"The training was done in good time because we had the time. And the second thing is that we realized that unless we achieve success in the shortest possible time, the United Nations and the other major nations would like to try us from carrying on fighting as a ceasefire rather than giving us time to have proper victory. We don't want anything less than victory. I evolved that we should be able to surprise and we should also be able to have mobility. Now the communications were very sparse.
Indian Army registered victory at the Battle of Boira even before the war had officially begun. On 21st of November, fierce brigade battles were fought at Boira in the western sector, Hili in the northwestern sector, Akhora in the eastern sector, and Silhet in the northeastern sector. At Boira, American-built 3 Pakistani Sabre fighters were destroyed by Indian Nats in the skies. The war officially began on the 3rd of December when Pakistan attacked forward Indian bases. The attempt went in vain. The then Prime Minister of India, Indira Gandhi, addressed the nation at midnight. The Indian Air Force retaliated and attacked Tezgaon and Kurmitola air bases the same night, causing heavy damage. Air Marshal H.C. Diwan, who was among those who planned India's retaliatory Air Force response, says,
"The Air Force bombed each and every airfield, whether in use or out of use, in Pakistan, East Pakistan. And every airfield was immobilized. Once it was immobilized, they were just not able to take off. We dared them, more or less, to really fly over some of their military airfield, which was primarily in Dhaka, Tezgaon, but they did not come up because they realized that the Air Force was quite superior to them."
The most crucial planning was involved in blockading East Pakistan from both sea and air, as the same ensured cutting off additional supplies to the Pakistani forces. India utilized its marine stealth, and INS Vikrant stood firmly in the Bay of Bengal. The 1971 war demonstrated the unified power and synergy of all the wings of the Indian Armed Forces. Vice Admiral Mihir Kumar Roy, who played a leading role in the war, said,
"In 71, we had the blockade. We prevented any of the ships and prisoners moving out by the khals, etc., because we had aircraft that operated at night. And when I spoke to Admiral Sharif when he was a prisoner in Fort William, and he said, I was deaf, I was blind, because day and night the Navy hammered us in all the inside khals, etc., leading to the seas."
The 1971 war is also remembered as one of the shortest duration wars which changed the geopolitics of South Asia. Within 3 days of the declaration of the war, Indian forces were able to completely ground the Pakistani Air Force. Many important cities, including Jessore, had fallen too. The time had come to recognize the long-awaited dream of millions of Bangla people who were subjected to pain and agony. And the recognition came in the Indian Parliament by the then Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi.
"The people of Bangladesh battling for their very existence and the people of India fighting to defeat aggression now find themselves partisans in the same cause. The government of India have, after the most careful consideration, decided to grant recognition to
The Eastern Command, which was planning and executing the operation on the ground, ensured that the war must not go for long. Any attempt by the Pakistani forces to retreat was thwarted. Displaying their indomitable spirit, the 41 Mountain Brigade took the control of Jenida another important town in the southwestern part of the erstwhile East Pakistan. Displaying great military prowess, Lieutenant General Sagat Singh of the 4th Corps bypassed 45 towns of Komila and marched for Chandpur and Daukhandi. Then Chief of Eastern Command Lieutenant General J.F.R. Jacob.
We planned the campaign in such a manner so that we'd move fast and we suffered minimum casualties. To do this, we at Eastern Command selected our main objective to be Dhaka, and we then selected subsidiary objectives to assist in this. They were not towns, but communication centers and command and control centers. For example, in the western sector, we selected Nagura and Faridpur. In the eastern sector, we selected Chandpur and Daukhandi.
10 days into the war, and on 12th of December, Pakistani troops started to surrender in various sectors. By then, Dhaka was full of Indian troops who moved from Tangail and Narsingdi.
The number of paratrooping forces swelled as the time passed. Soldiers from the 95 Mountain Brigade reached Joydepur, a suburb of Dhaka. Helping no point of return, Pakistani President Yahya Khan authorized East Pakistan governor to take all steps to end the fighting. The governor resigned after a crucial meeting. The instrument of surrender was signed at the Dhaka race course at 4:31 in the evening on the 16th of December. General Jacob arranged the surrender formalities. General Jagjit Singh Arora, who took the surrender talks about the memorable event.
I had decided that we take the surrender in public view. So that's why the surrender was taken on the race course. All the public has gathered there in absolutely large numbers. It has had a tremendous effect on the public.
70,000 defense and 2,000 paramilitary personnel had surrendered. On the 12th of January 1972, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was sworn in as the Prime Minister of Bangladesh. Indian forces in their fight for humanity fulfilled the dreams of millions of Bangla people.
The year 2021 was a watershed moment in the history of India-Bangladesh relations. The year also marks the golden jubilee of the establishment of formal diplomatic relations between both the countries.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi told that Bangabandhu was a champion of human rights and freedom and is a hero to Indians as well. The legacy and inspiration of Bangabandhu has made the heritage of both the countries more comprehensive and deep-rooted, and the path shown by Bangabandhu has laid a strong foundation for the partnership, progress and prosperity of both countries over the last decade. Long live India-Bangladesh friendship.
Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi inaugurated the Sarya Canal National Project at Balrampur district in Uttar Pradesh on Saturday. The project will facilitate irrigation to over 14 lakh hectares of land in 9 districts of eastern Uttar Pradesh, benefiting about 29 lakh farmers. The Prime Minister began his address by remembering those who died in the chopper crash on Wednesday. The Prime Minister said the loss of Chief of Defence Staff is a tremendous loss to the country. Mr. Modi said providing irrigation facilities to every field and making use of the drainage by the rivers is among the top priorities of the government. Mr. Modi said the completion of the Sarya Canal National Project, which was pending for decades, shows the government's resolve to work hard with noble intentions.
बलरामपुर के साथ साथ बहराइच, गोंडा, श्रावस्ती, सिद्धार्थनगर, बस्ती, गोरखपुर, महाराजगंज और कुशीनगर के सभी साथियों को, लाखों मेरे किसान भाइयों बहनों को आज हृदय से बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं.
Mr. Modi said that at the time of the commencement of this project 50 years back, its initial cost was less than 100 crore rupees, but now it has increased to around 10,000 crore. He said the lackluster attitude of the previous governments was responsible for holding such projects for decades.
आज से करीब 50 साल पहले इस पर काम शुरू हुआ था. आप सोचिए 50 साल के बाद आज इसका काम पूरा हो रहा है. साथियों, जब इस परियोजना पर काम शुरू हुआ था तो इसकी लागत 100 करोड़ रुपए से भी कम थी और आज कहां पहुंचा मालूम है? आज ये लगभग 10,000 करोड़ रुपए खर्च करने के बाद पूरी हुई है.
The Prime Minister said that recently the Union Cabinet has approved the Ken-Betwa Link project. He said this project will help farmers of the water-deficit Bundelkhand region. The Prime Minister said his government has ensured that despite the pandemic, the citizens should suffer least. He said the PM Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana has been extended till Holi next year.
PM Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana के तहत मिल रहे मुफ्त राशन के अभियान को होली से आगे तक बढ़ा दिया गया है। गरीबों को मुफ्त राशन पर सरकार 2,60,000 करोड़ रुपए उससे भी ज्यादा खर्च कर रही है।
Earlier, Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath said Eastern Uttar Pradesh has been neglected since independence. But Prime Minister Narendra Modi has helped this region to develop in all possible ways. More from our correspondent.
The Saryu Canal National Project is hailed as the biggest river linking project in Uttar Pradesh. 2 barrages have been built on river Saryu and Rapti to transport water to the fields. The project starts from Saryu Barrage at Bahraich. The main canal is 318 km long and 922 sub-canals with a length of over 6,600 km have been linked to it. Aditya Shukla, AIR News, Balrampur.
Defense Research and Development Organization DRDO and Indian Air Force flight tested the indigenously designed and developed helicopter-launched standoff anti-tank or SANT missile from Pokhran range on Saturday. The flight test was successful in meeting all its mission objectives. Ministry of Defense in a statement said the missile is equipped with a state-of-the-art millimeter wave seeker which provides high-precision strike capability from a safe distance. The weapon can neutralize targets in a range up to 10 kilometers. The SANT missile has been designed and developed by Research Center Imarat or RCI Hyderabad in coordination with other DRDO labs and participation from industries. This is the third in the series of indigenous standoff weapons to be tested in recent times after long-range bomb and smart anti-airfield weapon for strengthening the arsenal of IAF. The ministry said that the indigenous development of various configurations for different applications with advanced technologies is a firm march towards Atmanirbharta in defense. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh has congratulated the team associated with the mission. DRDO Chairman Dr. G. Satish Reddy said the successful flight test of SANT missile would further bolster the indigenous defense capabilities. Saudi Arabia government has banned the Tablighi Jamaat, calling it one of the gates of terrorism. Saudi Islamic Affairs Ministry has directed the mosques to warn people during Friday's sermon against the Tablighi Jamaat. Government has also warned people against associating with the Tablighi Jamaat, which has been banned in Saudi Arabia. Saudi government also asked mosques to inform people about the danger that Tablighi Jamaat pose to the society.
In USA, at least 50 people died after 4 tornadoes tore through the southeastern state of Kentucky as several storms ravaged swaths of the county. According to State Governor Andy Beshear, a number of counties in Kentucky were left devastated with the strongest tornado tearing through 200 miles of the state. On the same night, a storm ripped through a massive Amazon warehouse in the state of Illinois, where around 100 workers were left trapped inside, local media reported. Scores of search and rescue officials had been deployed to save lives as power outages continued to hit the area. The tornadoes tore through 4 states, Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, and Tennessee, with warnings in effect for Illinois. Scientists have warned that climate change is making storms more powerful and increasing their frequency, posing a growing threat to areas where extreme weather events are already common. The World Bank has said that international donors have agreed to transfer $280 million from a frozen fund to UN Food and Health Services in Afghanistan. The country faces a deep humanitarian and economic crisis made worse by the removal of financial support after the Taliban seized power in August. The World Food Programme, WFP, warns that more than half of the population is under threat of acute hunger. 3 million children are suffering from malnutrition. The WFP estimates that 23 million people require urgent food assistance as winter takes hold in the aid-dependent country, calling it the worst humanitarian crisis on earth. Western powers have refused to recognize the Taliban government officially. The US and other nations have frozen about $10 billion of Afghan reserves, while the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund have also halted the country's access to funding.
A Brazilian court has sentenced 4 people to lengthy prison terms over the deaths of 242 clubgoers in a fire during a party in 2013. The 2 owners of the club and 2 band members were found guilty of murder and attempted murder. Alessandro Spor and Mauro Hoffman, the nightclub owners, were sentenced to 22 and 19 years in prison respectively. Band members Marcelo de Jesus dos Santos and Luciano Bonilla Leao were given a jail term of 18 years each. However, the 4 were immediately released and will remain free while their lawyers appeal. The blaze began when members of a band performing at the Kiss nightclub in the southern city of Santa Maria lit flares which set light to the ceiling. There was a stampede and most of the victims died through smoke inhalation. The disaster, one of Brazil's deadliest fires, led to a review of safety regulations in nightclubs and similar venues across the country. Indian origin Gautam Raghavan has been appointed head of the White House Personnel Office. He replaces Catherine Russell, who has been appointed Executive Director of the UNICEF. Mr. Raghavan was Russell's deputy at the White House Office of Presidential Personnel.
The United States has imposed extensive human rights relations sanctions on dozens of people and entities tied to China, Myanmar and North Korea. US also added Chinese artificial intelligence company SenseTime Group, specializing in facial recognition technology, to an investment blacklist. The sanctions are intended to freeze the targeted people and entities out of the global financial system. Canada and the United Kingdom joined the US in imposing sanctions related to human rights abuses in Myanmar, while Washington also imposed the first new sanctions on North Korea under President Joe Biden's administration and targeted Myanmar's military entities, among others, in action marking Human Rights Day. In a statement, U.S. Deputy Treasury Secretary Wally Adeyemo said, "Our actions, particularly those in partnership with the UK and Canada, send a message that democracies around the world will act against those who abuse the power of the state to inflict suffering and repression." This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
Union Science and Technology Minister Dr. Jitendra Singh inaugurated the 7th edition of India International Science Festival at Panaji in Goa on Saturday. The theme of the 4-day Science Festival is Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, celebrating creativity, science, technology and innovation for a prosperous India. Speaking on the occasion, the minister said, "It is time to lay down the roadmap of scientific progress for the next 25 years when India celebrates the centenary of independence." British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss has warned Russia it will face severe economic consequences if it invades Ukraine. She said G7 foreign ministers meeting in Liverpool this weekend would put on a show of unity and make clear that such a move would be a strategic mistake. Ms. Truss said the UK and its allies had to deter Russia from taking that course of action.
Tensions are growing as Moscow amasses troops on Ukraine's border, but the Kremlin has denied it plans to invade. However, Russia has accused Ukraine of provocation and sought guarantees against eastward NATO expansion and deployment of weapons close to its border. On the other hand, U.S. intelligence officials said Russia has stationed about 70,000 troops near its border with Ukraine and has begun planning for a possible invasion as soon as early next year. Ukraine shares borders with both the EU and Russia. Meanwhile, as a former Soviet republic, it has deep social and cultural ties with Russia. This is Lalema Aneja Dang, World News.
The International Mountain Day is being observed on Saturday. The day is celebrated on 11th of December every year. The day aims to encourage sustainable development in mountains. The increasing attention to the importance of mountains led the UN to declare 2002 the UN International Year of Mountains. The International Day was celebrated for the first time the following year, 2003. International Mountain Day gives us an opportunity to spread awareness about protecting the mountain biodiversity, as these delicate ecosystems are under tremendous pressure from climate change, overexploitation and pollution. The theme of this year's International Mountain Day is Sustainable Mountain Tourism. sustainable tourism in mountains can contribute to creating additional and alternative livelihood options and promoting poverty alleviation, social inclusion, as well as landscape and biodiversity conservation. Mountains are home to 15% of the world's population and host about half of the world's biodiversity hotspots. They provide fresh water for everyday life to half of humanity. Their conservation is a key factor for sustainable development. India's COVID-19 vaccination coverage has reached nearly 133 crore mark today. The cumulative figure stands at 132 crore 84 lakh 4,705. Out of the total vaccination, more than 81 crore 41 lakh vaccine doses have been given as first dose, while over 51 crore 42 lakh doses have been administered as second dose. The Health Ministry said that more than 81 lakh vaccine doses were administered till 7 p.m. on Saturday. As part of the nationwide vaccination drive, the centre has been supporting the states and union territories by providing them COVID vaccines free of cost.
Government of India has asked all the states and union territories to maintain a strict watch on the COVID situation with focused district-level measures for containment of clusters of new positive cases. In a letter written to Chief Secretaries and Administrators of all states and union territories, Union Health Secretary Rajesh Bhushan said that in case of any district reporting a surge in cases or rise in positivity rates, intensive action and local containment must be initiated. He urged for strict adherence to COVID-appropriate behavior at all places and at all times must also be rigorously enforced and aggressively monitored.
President of India Ramnath Kovind urged the gentlemen cadets to dedicate themselves in the service of the nation. Addressing the passing out parade of Indian Military Academy in Dehradun on Saturday, he told the gentlemen cadets about the challenges that the nation is facing today at the regional and global level. He emphasized that physical and mental toughness alone are not enough to tackle modern-day threats of the country. But as military leaders, officers will have to develop a strategic mindset, cultivate an adaptive temperament, and acquire the mental resilience essential to hone the skills for military leadership. On the occasion, the President remembered India's first Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat, who died in a helicopter crash recently. The crash also claimed the lives of his wife, Madhulika, Brigadier L.S. Lidder, and several others.
Now let us take a look at the major developments of the world as reported in the foreign press. South China Morning Post reports Amazon factory collapses as deadly tornadoes lash Illinois, Kentucky, other U.S. states. Sputnik News writes, PM Scott Morrison urged to end lunacy, push for release of Australian citizen Julian Assange. The Sydney Morning Herald reports donors approved $390 million transfer for food, health aid for Afghans. The Washington Post says U.S. bans investment in Chinese surveillance company SenseTime, saying it supports repression of Uyghur minority population. The Guardian writes, Capitol Attack Panel obtains PowerPoint that set out plan for Trump to stage coup. Financial Times says, Russia demands NATO retract pledge to admit Ukraine and Georgia. The Wall Street Journal writes, Southern California's container ship backlog moves farther out to sea. A quick look at the headlines once again. Swarnim Vijay Parv, marking 50 years of India's victory in 1971 war and Indo-Bangladesh friendship, to be celebrated at India Gate in New Delhi on Sunday. Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi says, irrigation facilities to every field is among top priorities of the government. India flight tests indigenous standoff anti-tank missile from Pokhran range. Saudi Arabia bans Tablighi Jamaat on grounds of fanning terrorism. 4 tornadoes hit Kentucky state of US, killing 50 people. 7th edition of India International Science Festival begins in Panaji, Goa. And United Kingdom warns Russia over military action in Ukraine. India is celebrating the 152nd birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan Vaishnav Jan by artists from Burkina Faso on their National Day.
Vaishnav Jan to teni kahiye tir tarai jane re pare dukke kare kare to ye maniya biman naane re Vaishnav वचन तो तेनी कहिए चिर पराई.
And with that, we end this bulletin. We will be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.